But
Chevy,
are
these
not the
glasses
Ray-Bans.
are looking phenomenal, my friend.
Well, thank you you very much.
he's looking sophisticated.
Sophisticated, like he runs a hedge
He's
fund.
sophisticated. This guy runs ahead.
Like he understands the current macroeconomic environment.
Yeah. How do you feel about the liquidity cycle?
I'm the quant in this circle now. So let's get your facts straight. Let's get the energy right. You guys are here because of me. Collared shirt, the glasses. That's what's going on now.
Chevy's
Current
what's
macro
your-
environment.
What's your
macro
current take
environment.
on yesterday's FOMC meeting and where interest rates are going? Are we entering a phase of quantitative easing?
Well,
Adam,
you know what?
we're-
Here at the DAS summit, I heard all my fellow finance colleagues basically speak on the current state of the environment. And the conclusion that we all came to has been thus far another
Find out
NAC
next episode.
Another
Yeah.
NAC episode. That's
Another
the
NAC
conclusion.
episode.
We're back, baby. We're back with another NAC.
I will say, Chevy, that I can tell that you've settled in to your new home, quote unquote, because you have your little now in the background.
Yes.
And that means that he's planting roots here.
Planting
This
roots.
is very exciting.
It's very exciting.
Planting roots.
Yeah. How are you
And
guys?
it's also very good for us Los Angeles crypto folk, David over here being one of them. Because yesterday, Chevy and I got dinner with a creator, a fellow blueprint creator.
Ooh.
And I found out that
Wow.
Chevy doesn't live in Tarzana anymore. And he's
Yeah.
in the mix. He's looking to do stuff. So, if you're listening to this, you're in LA, you got good events that you want to get this quant out to, that's your guy right there.
That's your guy. He's an
Get
LA
me out.
guy now.
Get me out.
He's an LA guy.
Bring your
Yes.
own spreadsheet.
Bring
I,
your own spreadsheet. Yes.
I thoroughly enjoyed hearing Chevy give our good friend Jaden Hills a breakdown on creator tokens. And we were basically
Yeah.
role-playing if Jaden had her own creator coin, what it would look like. And I wish I filmed it. To share it, but it was quite entertaining to me.
Why were you so entertained?
Because I try and have that conversation with artists all the time, and it's like the hardest thing to do in the world. And you were just kind of like going for it in real time. And it was just like, it was amazing to me. I don't know how to say it any other way than that.
How would you rate the explanation out of 10?
I would give it like a 8.1 out of 10.
Wow.
Basically, Chevy pulls
Really?
up his mobile wallet. He's showing this coin that he's been using for the blueprint cohort. And I don't want to speak for you, obviously, Chevy, but why don't you give us a summary? Because there's a lot of stuff that was said in that exchange that I don't know if I want to say on this podcast, but that I think would be good to share with the listeners. Let's say I'm a creator in 2025. I'm thinking about launching a coin through the blueprint cohort.
Yeah.
Give me the rundown.
So the rundown is this. You launch a coin on Zora, you buy the majority of the supply, and your sole purpose is to give all of it away. And even that initial 10%, you should actually take it all the way up to 80 to 85%. Own the entire supply, custody the entire supply, and then give out incentives based off that supply that you own. And then everything that you make from the incentives that you give out should go, or almost everything should go back into buying back the token so that you can employ what we call fundamentals. This wasn't actually the pitch that I gave to Jaden. I'm tailoring it now for this pod. But I basically whipped out my phone and showed Jaden a bunch of wallets, all these things of giving out incentives and the flow of funds. And I could just see like the plus and minus signs and like all the whistles kind of just going off in their head,
The quant was
like,
quanting.
what is going on over here? So that was a good experience for what it's worth, and definitely a challenge that I got to figure out for cohort 3 somehow.
Mhm.
I don't have the answer just yet.
But you're going to keep experimenting.
We're gonna keep experimenting. ABE.
Keep clicking.
Always be.
I just don't know
experimenting.
if I should be creating or clicking, Adam. I'm not really sure.
It depends
Oh.
who you are in the market,
Hmm.
right? It really depends who you are. So if you're supporting, just keep clicking. If you're creating, just be experimenting. That's the
Just keep
the
creating.
takeaway. Just keep creating.
Lucas,
sure.
I actually wanted to ask about a little ski competition the other week. Heard there was some debauchery on the slopes,
Oh,
and I
man.
just wanted to see if we can unpack that live here on Not A Cartel.
It's tough. I don't know if I can pull the video up, but let's just recap here. I go all the way to the East Coast to ski a very small mountain, to go compete, to just try and get some points. All right. This is for those that don't know, the ski conf game is a game of points, and you're just trying to get some points to qualify to the next tier. And I go to the East Coast here. It's a pretty nice, favorable field for me. I put down exactly what, my game plan, execute my game plan perfectly. And unfortunately, I had a small mishap in the finish, and the counted that as a full fall on my run. So they placed me third to last instead of what was supposed to be a podium finish. Because the ruling on the ruling is you are not done with your run until you exit the finish. Even though I was in the finish, not in the judge portion of the event, of the venue, but yeah, a little disappointing. Pretty disheartening overall. But that's showbiz, baby. You can only do so much.
Well, you know
Read the
what?
rule
I
book.
just like that you're out there competing, my friend. It's been a good
We're
journey
staying
to
young.
watch. And he's getting out there. He's getting some points. He's farming the ski airdrop. And that's really all you
The
can
ski
ask for at
drop.
the end of the day.
Yep.
When's the next comp?
I think my season is done. I needed the points to go to the next one at Big Sky. But unfortunately, given the ruling on the field at the time, I will not be qualifying for Big Sky in about
So it's
2
time for
weeks.
the off season. It's time to start that workout for next year where you get on that podium, Lucas. you know?
Yep. We're coming back. We're pretty much making a big push before we turn 30 here. So we're on 28. Next season I'll be 29. Final season I'll be 30, and we'll see where we get.
Bear markets are for building.
Bear markets are for building and sending it.
This guy's like a ghost on camera. He was dipping out.
I know. Sorry,
in
I was a little too
background, in
far
the
back.
frame. Well, I guess
But
speaking of East Coast, David was just in Miami. David,
I was.
tell us about your trip to Miami.
I was in Miami. First of all, Miami is an incredible city, and I don't mean to shit on LA, but I'm gonna mildly shit on LA for a second.
Damn.
I didn't see one homeless person in Miami, and it's not only because I was in like really nice areas. I was at the Heat game. I was in downtown. I was in Brickell. I was in urban places. It was clean. It was beautiful. People were having a great time. Restaurants were opening. And also what I think Cooper is actually asking about is my brother got married. It was fantastic. View of the water, Biscayne Bay, the whole thing was a beautiful time.
David as the best man.
I was
David?
also, yes, I had some best
Relax.
man duties out there. Made a speech, got
Wow.
some laughs, got some tears. Everything you want out of a wedding speech.
You
Mission
love
done.
a good wedding, David.
Yeah, everybody,
lo-
you all like to. It's a
Wed vid?
condensed season. It's a condensed season right now. But we're in the clear for a bit. We're in the
Wow.
clear for a bit.
Miami's
Pretty
great.
good.
I'm happy for you.
But also, yeah, Miami's great. Miami's great. Great place.
No Miami Music Week, though, for you, I will say. You came back to LA right before all the action starts down there.
It's interesting you bring that up, Cooper, because I keep going back. I went back and forth on whether I should just stay, and I have gone back and forth as to whether I should go back. But it's busy times here at Hume, and I've decided my presence is better spent here at HQ in Los Angeles.
Why don't you give us a very light teaser on what's cooking back there? I'm not asking, don't spill the beans. I'm not asking you to spill the beans. But what brought you back to LA, Devin?
So what's cooking is, as all of you know, we build virtual artists here at Hume, and finally, some very influential people are starting to take notice of these virtual artists. Specifically, one of them, who happens to be a motorcycle driving, race car driving female, and there's talk of tours. There's talk of big things. So that is why I'm here currently, and trying to make it all happen. We're trying to make it all happen. Go down as we want. But there's the conversations are flowing.
This is with Death Pixie.
One could say that, Adam. One
Okay.
could say that.
If
yeah.
you were a quant and you
beans,
could look
Adam.
at charts
If
and
you
you
were
could look
a
at the
quant, you
macro
were-
conditions.
use the macro conditions and the Hume roster, our portfolio, our basket of virtual artists, you may deduce that the asset we're referring to is Death Pixie. You might deduce it.
But you have to DYOR, come to your own conclusions.
Right. Bring your own spreadsheet. Love it.
Yes.
Love it.
On my end, it feels like a very big next step for the Hume world, and specifically something that I think that all of us on this call have been debating a lot, which is how do you reach the next level of users and get to a new ring of distribution? And I feel like last week on the podcast with Peter, we talked quite a bit about that, but I've personally been enjoying watching everyone kind of find their own path to reaching new users, reaching a new demographic, the creators they're working with, etc. So I don't know, I feel like there's a turning point that's happening here where Chevy and I were talking about this last night, but at least on my end, I feel that I'm not as concerned about winning over crypto natives right now. I feel entirely concerned with how to win over real people that don't care at all about crypto. And I think that it's really oriented our product roadmap in a very certain way. But I'll give Chevy a lot of credit. He made a great point that it's not one or the other. It needs to be both. Because the crypto people are the sustaining, reliable income that you can use to pay your creators to make sure they have a great experience on chain. However, you will hit a local ceiling. And at that point in time, you do need to go outside of that to find net new distribution in order to make these products successful. So I thought that was a very good framing yesterday, Chevy.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. That's what we talked about with Peter also. It's like it's not either or. And to get trad people in the space, you have to feed them the sugar that the regular people have been milking, and have been creating. Right. And that's how you get them hooked. And how you do that is like finding that balance has been really difficult. But yeah, we've been all doing that in different ways in our own shapes and forms. But yeah. Time will tell what ends up working, and if the normies actually care about incentives, and if they care about buying a video or buying a song, and what actually happens after that.
I've been thinking about it a little differently. I don't think it matters whether the normies care about the incentives, as long as the experience or product we're building. There might be other pieces of the product that we can each build that do appeal to normies. And the crypto incentive part of the product is what got a lot of people in the door and allows us to have that, baseline revenue and get the product off the ground. But then maybe there's other kinds of features that do appeal more to that normie and then end up overlapping with the crypto native user.
I think crypto superpower is its base is helping people make money. I think every user that will come into crypto is in some shape or form to some degree a profit-seeking user. Mm-hmm. And I think even the ones who've leaned away from being less speculative, like Warpcast, have now built more features to enable speculation, transactions, and activity, financial activity. So I think that is like something that for the longest time I resisted and ended up going into building B2B SaaS because I thought that was like the right play and a good opportunity, but later realized like these are the features, these aren't bugs, and finding a way to abstract a lot of it, but also catering towards it is like finding that equilibrium again, finding that balance. Lucas, you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say that right now at Pods, I don't think we're super focused on bringing the normies in just yet. I think right now we're still trying to figure out, to your kind of analogy, Adam, what the sugar is or what the incentive game is to start converting more of the existing user base to collect more, to engage more, because we have those 100,000 users that have used the platform already. And it's like, how do we start increasing that retention? How do we start increasing the conversion on how frequently they're minting and supporting and engaging with podcasts in certain episodes? And then from there, once we have like the what that sugar is, what the Coke formula is, then we can start to bring it more towards normies. Because I think the thing for us that we've realized is the creator side is really easy. If you can just say, hey, you're going to make $5,000 on every single episode or every single piece of content that you publish through us, and there's really no downside, continue publishing to YouTube, Spotify, TikTok, everywhere that you're going right now. Of course, they're going to say yes. And of course, they're going to publish, and start using you. So it's really trying to figure out what that demand side equation looks like on the collector side, how you increase that engagement. And I think that's just the main focus right now over the next probably Q2 here is start to experiment and start to put swings or like shots on net on what this like viral engagement mechanism or incentive mechanism is. So
beyond
that's where we're at right now.
Beyond what you've been doing currently,
because I think like the main model right now that we've all found success in is the incentivized mints. I think the problem with that is that it's really hard to scale to hundreds or thousands of creators, right? That's the main issue. So trying to figure out what the platform level kind of incentive mechanism is that is going to increase the floor for all of the creators that are publishing on the platform, I think is the main focus right now for us. And just trying to experiment on that front.
Is the framing that every creator should make 5K plus per post
No.
at a minimum? No.
In the same way that Facebook was like, all we need to do is get you 7 friends. You know, when you first join Facebook, it's like, how do you get that creator to earn $10 immediately when they publish their first piece of content on the platform?
Which
and
by
how
default,
do you do that consistently? So how do you make the floor that, and then also how do you have experiments that allow you to increase the ceiling? So what the highest mint is, right, Adam? Like right now, you had the highest minted episode on Pods. It's like 50,000 mints. How do we start getting those distribution mechanisms, those incentive mechanisms, to start pushing the boundary on what that ceiling looks like, while increasing the floor for every creator?
I think it just comes back to, well, I guess from your perspective, you're not trying to onboard the normies. It's just using the existing playground
Right.
to bring more attention and more distribution.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
My take
there's
right now is that there's 125 podcasts on our platform. We're publishing probably 60 to 70 episodes per week. That's plenty of content right now to be driving a meaningful amount of activity. And I just don't think that we're there yet. So it's really trying to figure out how we get there.
But I think the other question, and Cooper, I think you're doing a good job of this, is like what features benefit both the creators, are add-ons that the people who are currently collecting would like, and things that normies would find interesting. Like, what's that Venn diagram? And I think, Cooper, some of the things you've been experimenting with that, if you want to jump into it, kind of hit that Venn diagram in a really nice way. And you've been spending a lot of time talking to creators, looking at what other products in the music space are doing, and then also looking at like what you've already built and starting to find, I think, from my conversations with you, like a nice little sweet spot.
Yeah. I would say for us, it's downloads. It's very simply, if a DJ wants to come and download a song that they would play in their sets, they would come and collect the record and then get a download of the song. And I think pushing the download experience to like the very front of the collector flow has been something we put a lot of effort into lately. And I think what I've learned is that in London and the UK, there's this dub plate culture, which is basically a song that doesn't come out anywhere else on the internet. The only way that you can get it is by buying it as a download. And so in a lot of the artists that we've been working with in London, we want to kind of embody that spirit and bring it to our platform. And I noticed looking at some analytics that for the Notion song that we put out, there was actually a significant amount of traffic that was driven to both Sound, the song page on Sound, and Coop Records, looking to download the song. People would type in the Days Notion remix download, and due to the fact that you could get a download as a result of collecting, it actually became one of the top SEO options. That was like a very big insight to me, because that was the first time that I realized, people want to actually spend money on the specific behavior. You have things like Bandcamp, you have things like Beatport, etc. But I think combining the intention of getting a download of a song with this sort of added benefit of having a fixed edition of a song, having potential upside, having rewards, having loyalty in the label, I think that, to Adam's credit, is where a lot of these other like crypto native behaviors can come in after the fact. But it starts from the idea that someone would want to get a download of the song in the first place.
Before you jump in, Lucas, because I'm sure people are going to be listening to this and be like, why do people care to download a song? How have you, what is the insight that you've gotten once they download it? What do they do next with it?
They put it on their USB so that they can DJ with it. And so the flow is that you basically, today in music, you either have to go buy songs or you rip them off of SoundCloud. And so I'll spend an hour every month basically going and downloading 30, 50 tracks that I just want to add to my USB, keep it fresh, etc. And for people that aren't familiar with how DJing works, you basically download the MP3 or WAV file, you import it to a software called Rekordbox. You basically add that to different playlists and add it to your USB. And when you export your USB, you plug that into the CDJs, and that's how you actually play music live. I will say this is a very big misconception with DJing, that people think that you can just download songs live on the spot, or when someone comes up and they're like, oh, I was in Sun Valley and this lady was play Tool or something like that. And I was like, I don't have Tool on my USB just sitting here and I can't download it. But it's very important to come prepared with, good music on your stick already, especially for hobbyists and touring DJs. And I think for me, the intention for Coop Records is to have the newest, coolest stuff. And in the absolute best case scenario, it's to have stuff that exists on Coop Records that you can't get anywhere else on the internet. And I think as we start to make that a destination, because the money that artists are getting from having their music on our site is greater than they're going to get from selling their song on Bandcamp or someone else, that actually becomes a very competitive offering just on the music side alone. Take aside the crypto piece at all.
Yeah, what I really like about it too is it very clearly answers why collect in a way that might be relevant to the culture and music.
Yep.
And I really like that. And I was honestly earlier this week was thinking about a similar thing for pods. It's like if we could allow the download of the audio file, it's a very primitive way of enabling like clipping on the platform. So I can take that MP3 file or whatever the media file is, and then I can import it into CapCut and I can make a clip and I can put it on TikTok. Because right now that process is still like a little convoluted or just a little annoying. So I really do appreciate like a very simple reason to why collect that felt very relevant to, the industry that you're operating in.
Cool.
Yeah.
I like that. Makes sense.
I'd also plus one Lucas's earlier statement that getting creators on board is actually not the hard part these days. And I think that I will say that is very much because all of us on this call we run on-chain ads for everything. I think that if you're just like a general creator putting out a piece of content on a crypto platform, there's not that guarantee that it's going to make money. But I think a reason why all of our businesses have been able to get high value creators is because of the fact that there is a confidence and an expectation around earnings. On our end, I would say that our like minimum amount that a song would generate for an artist is around $250 to $500. But when we're going to these bigger creators and these A-list creators, we tell them, hey, we have X amount of dollars set aside as a marketing campaign for you. It'll probably take a while for this to actually get completed, but we want you to know that we're putting spend behind it on our end so you can have confidence that the song will actually perform well and generate you revenue in the crypto space.
I think people that might have infinite runway right now, Privy just raised a $15 million round. I think that brings their total to $40 million in funding, which is really impressive.
Not bad.
I think all of us might be integrating Privy.
Yes.
All of us may be integrating Privy, but Coop Records LP is on the cap table. That's what I'll say.
Hey,
I didn't know that.
Wow.
That's
What a
pretty nice,
W.
Coop.
it's a good
Yeah,
check.
That's pretty nice.
But yeah, I feel like it was a very validating step forward for them. I think that there's been times internally we've debated, do we want to use Privy for our self-custodial wallet experience? Do we want to use something like Turnkey? And I think more and more, I just love how much of a moat they've built with the confidence of their customers, with the quality of their product experience and whatnot. The cost is something to be really mindful of as you start to scale a consumer app, and specifically as you start to scale a consumer app that, users are making wallets for the first time. I think that vendor lock-in is a very serious conversation, but I also think the reason that they were able to raise $15 million is because of the strength of that vendor lock-in. And so it's kind of like, I can see both sides of the equation very, very clearly.
I'm also wondering if like pricing will come down as part of like the funding.
We'll see. To be determined, honestly.
I think those days of basically VC subsidized products are gone, and I'd be surprised if they lowered it.
Yeah.
Why would they?
Well, I think in the past of like, I think if this was like 2020 or even 2022, they could have lowered it and it's like go capture the entire market. But I think the sentiment around like your revenues going lower, unless you can really prove that revenues are going to go higher by us subsidizing this product and it still puts us on a long-term path to profitability, I think that conversation's just different.
I think my pushback there is like, we're in the process of integrating Privy right now. And I think maybe by the time this episode goes live, we'll be pretty close to shipping it, if not shipped. But I think the biggest point of contention internally was like a lot of the pricing. And I think that's like a big point of friction for a lot of teams that want to integrate this experience is the pricing. Because Privy is definitely the premium experience, I think, as a whole. So I'm interested to see, if that is a response for them or if they just feel comfortable in that kind of like premium experience.
I'll also flag that on my end, the Privy wallet setup is the first part of that process. If you are a real user coming to buy a song on Coop Record's platform, you don't have a wallet, and you set one up with an email or phone number, that's great. But it also begs the question of how do I actually go through and purchase this track after I set up the wallet? And so for us, our first optimization is around Apple Pay, the checkout flow with Apple Pay. I think that credit cards are still really clunky, and I do not think that people are going to want to whip out a credit card to buy a song for like 75 cents. So we're starting with Apple Pay, but I think that over the medium term, it has to be more of a top-up experience. And I think that it needs to be something where you're not expected to, pull out a credit card, pull out Apple Pay for every microtransaction you're making. But I do just want to highlight that at least in our journey, that just allowing someone to set up a wallet with a phone number, email is great, but it's not going to solve all your problems or let you allow real users to actually buy these things. There's a lot of other work that needs to be done in tandem with that.
Yeah, I think obviously
that the next step for Privy and part of what this funding is going to be for is to enable a bunch of easy to use payment solutions so that everybody on this call doesn't need to think about it or figure it out themselves.
I think so. I think that it's very interesting to watch just the way in which we all get to that next tranche of users. I would say one good use of Privy that I've been really excited about has been the Warpcast wallet, Warplet for short. Dan posted on Twitter the other day that they now have 70,000 accounts that are funded on Warpcast. And I saw that Woj was hinting at a new feature on the profile tab on Warpcast. And my guess is that it's going to be, being able to view someone's wallet directly in the social feed experience. And so I think Farcaster still feels kind of like the dark horse right now to me, where all of us that are on it are obviously very much going to we'll post about it and shill it. I don't think that the rest of crypto has really come to embrace it yet or see it as something that's like significantly valuable. But I've really enjoyed the path that they're going down with this Warpcast wallet experience, powered by Privy, of course. And I think that there's a lot of cool stuff that'll come from that.
I also
Speaking of the Warpcast experience, Coop, you recently launched your Frame Speed 2 implementation. How's that going for you?
Just felt like something that needed to be done. I'm not going to say that we got like a huge amount of traffic on the back of it, but I think just being able to collect songs in the feed, play songs in the feed, it was a good small win. The Warpcast team was happy about it. So that's all you can ask for. David, sorry, I know you're going to jump in there. What did you want to add?
Time has passed. Let's keep moving on.
Love that.
I'm sorry, David. I didn't want to ruin your point like that.
It's okay. We're in the flow.
I apologize. I'm
in
sorry.
the spirit of checks flying, holiday. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but announced a 20 million Series A led by A16Z Crypto. I don't know what they do other than smart contract automation. It feels like that
is what they do.
But like I don't know what that means though. What does that mean? SaaS, like, is it like writing a smart contract, no code? Like what does that really mean in practice? How do I use it in my workflow with what we're doing with Blueprint and whatnot? I don't know, but I'm really interested to learn more. I hadn't heard of this company prior to their new Series A, so congrats to them.
Congrats to them. My intuition is that it's basically Cursor for smart contracts, where either as a developer or someone who's not a developer, if you want to deploy smart contracts, you can just vibe code it. And as a experienced smart contract developer, it would drastically save the amount of time required to deploy contracts yourself.
I had that idea in college. I wish I could create a smart contract without needing to learn how to code. I had the idea when I was in my Solidity class. I was taking Solidity in college.
Hey, he was quanting.
I was like, huh?
He was quanting in college.
Hey, you're
Quanting in college. And I was like, I can't do this shit. I need like a Wix type of flow to build a smart contract. So if that's the case, then bullish.
Yeah, I am excited about these tools because the on-chain aspect of vibe coding right now is actually like the hardest part by far. Like coming up with a little mini game or app or something that's just like in a web browser, no Web3 connection is like pretty straightforward. It's really doing the on-chain actions is the hard part about building something with Claude or Cursor or anything like that. So exciting tooling to have in the pipeline, and for the vibe coders in the room like us, we'll have a new tool in the tool belt here.
I got a question on this topic. So, last week we had our friend Peter on. He spoke about how the VC market is not what it was in 21 and 22. He talked about ramen profitability. He talked about how many VCs that raised in that earlier period are out of dry powder. We're seeing these raises right now. However, I don't know if somebody on this podcast has some information. Did these raises actually take place in like December, January, February when times were booming? Or are these more recent and an actual reflection of what we can expect in the next 6 to 12 months?
I think pretty much every raise is something that was done prior and announced strategically. I definitely know for the Privy round that was not like done this month or anything like that. I can't speak to the other one we were just talking about, but I think that there was a period when the market was extremely bullish. I'm imagining that's when these raises got done. And now as we're kind of coming out of this recent bear swing and hopefully going bullish again, it's a very good time to get some hopium into the market here. My commentary on that specific round was that it's very telling where a lot of venture dollars are going in crypto right now. I think that consumer is still an extremely difficult place. We actually don't really see many consumer businesses being funded right now. And frankly, I don't expect to see them get funded until after there's like another wave of distribution that's unlocked from the projects themselves. So, sometimes it's disheartening as a consumer founder to see so much money being poured into infrastructure consistently, AI consistently, whatever you want to call it. But I think it's a really good motivating factor that, as David was just saying, that like the consumer path is not going to be the same as other paths in crypto. I don't think that you can expect to just go ahead and just raise a Series A or a Series B very easily in this market. If you don't have users and distribution and you're not making a shit ton of revenue and profit, then you're probably not going to see interest from VCs in the first place.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that Peter had brought up last week was it just takes time. Like I think Peter specifically said 5 to 7 years to build a consumer product. So it just takes a lot of time to sit there and iterate and go through the cycles over and over again and start to learn and experiment and identify, your little pockets of PMF. And I think largely you're not going to get money until you hit those pockets or those little pieces of PMF, right?
Right.
To Peter's point. And I think it's a lot harder for us, especially when these infrastructure plays have just significantly more upfront like cost, I guess, and resources that required to, set up an AI, platform that people can, interact with.
Yeah, I was going to say, and surviving for that long is actually debatably more challenging than finding success over that time horizon. And I think that that's kind of the balance that I've been trying to walk here. And, David, you and I speak about this a lot, but it's basically like we all want to be around for 5 to 10 years. It's probably not going to be through just like comfy, cushy venture funding. Like there is a self-reliance on founders to be able to bootstrap their business to last that long. And I think that survival mindset actually becomes like the priority over how do I go and raise my next round? It's just like, how do I put my business in a position where this can exist for a very long period of time and not feel like, if I don't sell a bunch of NFTs this month, that I'm going to go under next month.
In the spirit of cutting checks, another big check was cut this week. Kraken acquires NinjaTrader for $1.5 billion. I've never heard of NinjaTrader. Have you guys ever used NinjaTrader?
No.
Apparently, it's the leading U.S. retail futures trading platform. $1.5 billion. It's a pretty big deal. Feels like it's a trad company. Oh, it's a trad project. Trad company coming into crypto. Is it trad? I don't know.
I think it is interesting to see this crypto company acquires trad company, where I feel like historically it's always been more of the inverse of trad company acquires crypto company. So I think it's an interesting signal as a whole that crypto is getting to the point where it can acquire these multi-billion-dollar, 9-figure businesses, 10-figure businesses.
I also think it gets to what we were talking about before. We should put this. So do you all see Robinhood launch prediction markets?
Yeah, I didn't see that.
Robinhood launched prediction markets. It was either earlier this week or late last week. And my first thought was like, this is a poly market killer. Like Robinhood has way more distribution than Polymarket. So many people already have Robinhood downloaded on their phones and are trading stocks. Like now they're just, if they want to go trade prediction markets, they're going to go straight to Robinhood now. And what I think when I look at this Kraken deal, it's like they're thinking like us. They're like, we need to expand beyond just like crypto users. We're tapped out. And if you have the kind of capital that a Kraken has, maybe you get to the point where you're like, let me just buy non-crypto native businesses in order to start expanding my user base and also not be a 100% crypto business myself if I'm really trying to grow beyond this space. So I also wonder, like, if I work at Polymarket, what their reaction to this is, because obviously Robinhood didn't say let's go buy Polymarket. Maybe they did and Polymarket turned it down. I don't know. I literally know nothing about what happened there, but I think this is really interesting and really telling of traditional businesses that are going to incorporate what's working in crypto in a really easy way. And then on the flip side, crypto businesses that do have the capital going out and acquiring businesses that can expand their user base and distribution and get them into new businesses as well.
I actually think this is somewhat bullish for Polymarket. I'm not going to lie. I think we've seen Robinhood enter the crypto space in a number of ways before. I know that they have like a stable coin. You can buy different tokens on it and whatnot, but their user base is inherently not crypto first. I think that Polymarket won because they have distribution beyond crypto, which is what we talked about earlier this episode. But I do still think that a significant percentage of the liquidity does come from crypto natives. And so I don't know. I think that imitation is the highest form of flattery. And I think if you're Polymarket and you're seeing Robinhood launch a parallel product, you're fired up to optimize your product, win distribution, win that market. But I think it's a very bullish signal.
Yeah, I'm wondering more on the TradFi side of stuff, if like Robinhood, the stock, is like a high beta play on Coinbase, or like, how to play Robinhood if you wanted to. I wonder if our quant has any thoughts on Hood stock.
No thoughts on Hood stock. Just keeping it Hood myself. Next question.
It's a pretty good looking chart.
Yeah, the Hood chart is nice.
There you go. There's the chart.
Pretty good.
It's a solid looking chart. I think the Coinbase stock looks also like
is it a solid looking chart?
It is, and it is.
Yeah,
That's over 3 years. Yeah.
That's a solid
22%.
Solid. You're out of the
Success
trenches, the post IPO trenches right here.
Yeah, if you bought
Tough.
the IPO post dip, you did very well.
Yep. This is all investors just dumping, and now you're finally seeing some turnaround here in 2024. They're pivoting, making a stronger move into crypto, making it more forward. I don't know. We'll see.
It's pretty crazy. That 22% is really good in the world of stock.
The 22% is based on their IPO price.
Yeah, from the IPO price.
Yeah.
They're 130% in the past year.
Oh, okay, that's pretty good.
Outperforming ETH.
Yeah. The list of things outperforming ETH is
So we got March Madness starting here. I'm looking at my Warpcast feed right now, and I see Bracky getting a lot of action out here. Who's going to be playing some March Madness this season?
not a big March Madness guy.
Neither am I.
But I will do it through Bracky because I just got the airdrop. So I'll probably roll whatever funding I can into some Bracky.
Hey.
Do a little Bracky bracket.
What's Bracky?
Sports betting prediction market, effectively. Native on Warpcast. And yeah, I am not overly familiar with it. I've only used it a handful of times during like separate kind of like event launches for them. But I think overall they've done a really good job of providing like a very good mini app experience in Warpcast for sports betting. So it's definitely worth checking out.
Why are you going to use Bracky over Robinhood?
Feature tokens.
I like
Token
that.
Robinhood, I won't get an airdrop or like any sort of tokenized reward. Bracky, I will.
It's pretty good. I'll also be using Bracky too. Disclosure, Coop Records is an investor in Bracket Game, the team behind Bracky. But I do think that trying to socialize the March Madness betting pool has been fun. And having played Bracket Game quite a bit in the past, I really like the idea that your shares and teams are liquid. So the typical March Madness format is that you pick the winner of two teams. It's a binary outcome. If a team loses, your entire bracket gets busted. You're basically out for the whole season, the whole game. With Bracket Game, and I hope that this is the way that this Bracky tournament will work, you're basically just buying and selling shares in a different team. And so if a team loses, you can sell all their shares. If a team wins, you can buy more of their shares. And then over time, liquidity kind of consolidates into the winning teams. But it's nice because you don't have to make like your all-in bet out of the gate. You can kind of have some intuition, like I want to buy a little Duke shares to start because they're a front runner. If a team gets an upset, you can pick up some shares. You want to join in the party a little bit later. So at least on my end, I like this idea of like a very liquid trading competition as opposed to just like a one and done. You submit it now and then it's just, that's what it is for the whole tournament. So we'll see what happens. There was a very big prize pool when DGen was popping back in the day. I know that this time around there's like a big partnership with Warpcast, and I don't expect there to be like a huge prize pot at the end, but you know, if you're listening to this and you're looking for some good liquid token exposure, Bracky, $3 million market cap right now, March Madness. Let's see what happens.
What are the fundamentals? What's going to
good.
drive the token up?
It's a great question, and honestly, not one that I have the answer to. I don't know if you need to use Bracky to play the game, Lucas. Is that your understanding from having gotten that airdrop? Or I'm guessing that's why they airdrop to people, is there's probably some mechanism where to play, you need to use Bracky in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I didn't get that far. Just claimed the airdrop and then was going to follow up after this episode. So don't have much comment there.
I've got
Just claim the airdrop, gonna dump.
Did they give investors who had token warrants some Bracky, or is this kind of seen as a meme coin and not part of any investment?
They are planning to give the token to investors, yes. They basically like sniped a large percent of the supply and are reserving it for investors.
Smart.
I'm just
I
in the
do
camp
like this model.
nowadays. I'm in the camp nowadays of just like, show me the fundamentals. I want to
Yeah, I respect that.
Or Quan wants to see the fundamentals.
I want to see the fundamentals. Bring me the
I think-
spreadsheet. How are you? Where's the buy pressure? How are you bringing value back to the token? That's where my head's at.
One thing that I do like about like the current models that's popping up is the fact that these companies or like entities do own a liquidity pool and therefore have a revenue stream via trading fees, which makes me feel like more aligned than just having tokens that you dump, I guess, over time, because it makes you more aligned with the trading activity and all of that. And it allows you to also give up the protocol fee or the platform fee of whatever you're taking and drive it back into the token. So I do really like this model that's starting to percolate a little bit. And I'm definitely thinking more about it. But yeah, that was the only comment that I had there. I know a little bit unrelated, but
One of my big takeaways from listening to some of the talks at the DOS Summit was Vance and Michael from Framework were talking about Maker. And apparently Maker's doing 500K in buybacks every week, and they have been for quite a long time now. And so going into the fundamental side, Chevy, I think there really is a very cool narrative format here around fundamentals, buybacks, you know, buy and burn, whatever you want to call it. But I do think that idea has been sitting in my head a lot more lately and really valuing projects based off fundamentals, whether it be DeFi or whether it be just consumer businesses. So as our resident quant, I understand why you would like that. I mean, that's just what you were born and raised on, but I do just want to co-sign that opinion that I think it's a really good way to start looking at, you know, good tokens over this next 12 months here.
A lot of changes in 2 months, huh?
Yeah.
Well, here talking about fundamentals and buybacks and what happened to the dog on the sphere, guys?
Wait,
The good old days.
real quick. What are other forms of fundamentals if not for buybacks that have worked in practice? Coming from Lucas and Coop, working with Fire Eyes, bringing projects to market. What are like some of the more fundamental?
It's like staking, I would say, as like a broad
Yeah, I
category.
the best, most apparent like example here is like Rocket Pool. When we designed that token, is that you required some sort of RPL in order to run like the node, an RPL node, and that also qualified you for additional inflation or additional rewards. And I think that model, you know, while it was implemented, saw a lot of like up only momentum, especially as the network launched and a lot of validators came online and were staking RPL. So I think that's another kind of primary token sink that people can leverage. I think back to the Vance and Michael thing, I was listening to Bell Curve yesterday, and I think Michael was pretty much just like, if your protocol isn't the largest buyer of your token, shut the fuck up, pretty much. Paraphrasing here. Like the protocol needs to be the largest buyer of the token. Don't rely on other people. Don't rely on retail. Don't rely on, you know, liquid funds to come in and buy the token. The protocol should be, you know, being that large demand driver because of the usage, because of all the fundamentals that are kind of backing that protocol or application. And I thought that was really interesting and hopefully a big shift that we start to see with token models coming out the door.
It really makes me want to optimize our product and our protocol to start generating buys on every mint, to the point where one of the things I don't like about the current way that we've been doing buybacks is it's very manual. And, Adam, we were talking about this last night, where like, if you want to buy back tokens, we'll just say tokens in general here, in my context, like song tokens, it's a very manual process. I go in and I'm claiming ETH from a splits contract. I'm going Uniswap. I'm buying this token. I'm running campaigns with it. But the downside is when you're running campaigns and you look on Deck Screener, you see like 7 buys compared to like 300 sells every day. And it looks very bearish, as opposed to if there was a small buy that happened upon every mint. I think you could start to flip that, where theoretically speaking, there should be more buys than sells. And I'm not saying that it's going to be like an insane amount of volume, but at least from a transaction standpoint, just having that wheel going and just seeing that there is a consistent flow of funds going into these tokens, it feels like a cool design space to, iterate on under the hood here.
To me, this all leads to another conversation that was very popular 3 to 6 months ago, which is L3s, which is, if all of us are driving enough business, at some point we're all going to want to have an L3 and be capturing more of those fees and then possibly using those for buybacks. And I think just listening to this conversation and knowing how we all think about our businesses, I kind of originally thought like the L3 thesis was a little silly, but if you're suddenly sitting there as the founder and you're like, I could also be capturing all these fees and I could also be using those fees for buyback of my token, at some point you're going to want to control the payment network if you can.
Yep. I would say with the caveat of interoperability and distribution not being hurt by that. So, I think one of the big issues with like the L3 was like DGen had trouble after the initial launch of like getting people to bridge over there and start using it. And then they kind of lost some of that base distribution that they got. So I think those are kind of the 2 biggest trade-offs right now that founders have to decide with launching an L3. But I do agree, probably the long-term kind of trajectory, once all this stuff is ironed out and you're a platform or an application with enough distribution, it does kind of just make sense to capitalize on those economics and drive that into more valuable things.
Yeah, I'm thinking 2 or 3 years out, Cooper has a bunch of people in London who never touched anything in crypto, and this is the only crypto product they use because they want to be getting songs on their USBs. Eventually, Cooper is going to be looking at that volume and saying like, wait a minute, how many fees am I giving up right now that I could be capturing if I owned the payment network, and also putting that back into buybacks on my token?
Well, let me play devil's advocate for a second. What are these extra fees that you're talking about? Is it sequencer fees from transactions?
Yes. And gas fees.
Yeah. I think that currently the cost of running a network is not high enough to justify the resource allocation to standing one up. There's a company called Spire that I got connected to recently that was making the pitch that your app chain should basically just be a smart contract on an L2. So instead of having to like bridge from base to your L3, you're basically just sending funds to a smart contract, and that's the way that you're interacting with it. But still a lot to be proven. I think that I agree with your thesis that over time, apps will all have their own chains if they have enough distribution. I think in a practical timeline horizon, our focus is going to be first and foremost on like checkout experience, so making that really seamless, and then around mobile app. And I think the way that I'm orienting that within my mind is that we will build our mobile app once we have a product that is usable to real people, because the flexibility you have around product iteration becomes a lot lower once you're in the app store. You need to get Apple to approve all your changes. So at least for me this year, that checkout flow is kind of the most immediate priority. But I'd say our biggest goal for, let's call it Q3 of this year, is to actually have a mobile app in the app store that lets you buy things on chain without needing to fund your wallet with ETH in the first place. I do have to flag that I have an important hard stop in a minute from right now. So I just want to shout that out. I don't know if you guys want to keep going after.
It's okay. I didn't have an important question. I'll forget it. Don't worry, Coop.
I think as like a couple other recaps that we want to celebrate. Crypto the game ended. Ted won the 71 ETH jackpot, 150 grand. Congrats, Ted.
Wow.
Congrats,
celebrating you. Claps all around.
Also, shout out to Keel, Coop Records designer, came in second. Crypto the game. He lost by 1 vote.
I was wondering why he was so familiar.
Wow.
So does he win? Did he win anything? Or no,
he won nothing.
Choices.
He won nothing. He won a pat on the back.
No prizes.
All that
for-
time that he could have been designing
Yeah.
Coop Records products, he was
I was a big
CPG.
proponent of it. I think that it was a great brand builder for him. I think that he really tapped into a new network of people, and I think they did a great job. So
Right.
had my full support.
Love that.
In the spirit of
Great
running through the
perspective.
rest of the agenda, Soldier Boy joins Zora, launches a bunch of cartoons, but launches a coin trading at 5K market cap right now. I wonder what the plan is with that. The president addresses the DAS Summit, the Digital Asset Summit, right? That's what it stands for, by Blockworks. Shout out to them for getting a heavy-hitting speaker. Pengu got listed on Robinhood. Didn't really do much to my bags, unfortunately.
Angry
And-
He did get that ETF. That ETF
Oh.
filing.
Oh, it was an ETF filing.
ETF
today,
filing.
right before we hopped on.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. And then
We'll
last
see where
but
that
not
goes.
least, that I think is just the most memeable content of this week. Abstract makes $77 in 24 hours. And don't forget that. That was really funny. I loved seeing that on my timeline. It's pretty good. And that's
Well,
NAC episode 13.
Yeah. I mean, the last thing what I'll say on the abstract thing is I think they did a really good PR job of handling that, and they kind of leaned into it and was like making it a joke, and really highlighted all the applications that are doing well, despite maybe fee generation not being that high.
It wasn't accurate for what it's worth. The $77 thing was not even remotely accurate, but
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's just funny how memes get
But I like
caught.
the meme. I like the meme.
Guys,
All right,
till next
gentlemen.
time,
All right.
Lucas, take it away.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Not A Cartel. As always, you can find this episode at pods.media/notacartel, where you can collect and support us every week on chain, on base, and we'll have a good time doing it.
See you there. Knack, knack, knack.
knack,
Fellas,
knack, knack. See you
thank
guys.
so much.
Nah.